to go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Amityville Union Free School District Board of Education Work Session Meeting, December 6, 2023. At this point in time, I'd like to acknowledge who is here. President Lisa Johnson, First Vice President Annette Santos, Second Vice President Carol Seahawk, Trustee Dave Hella, and it is anticipated that Trustee Leslie Kretz, as well as Trustee Juan Leon, will be attending the executive session meeting today. Also present at this time is Superintendent Dr. Gina Talbot, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Joan Lang, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Bridget Waite, and Assistant Superintendent Olivia Watsi, as well as our consultant person code, or I should say consultant district clerk at that point in time. So I was amiss. The meeting was called to order at 5:30. Right. Also coming into executive session in a little while will be counsel will be John Sheenan. He will be arriving to executive session as well. So at this point in time, can I have a motion, which is now 5:31? Can I have a motion to go into executive sessions for the purpose of particular person's employment history and advice from counsel as well?
So moved.
Second.
That's Carol Seahawks first. Dave Hella second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 4-0. The open session meeting will resume at 7:30.
Union Free School District Board of Education meeting. The work monthly meeting, December the 6th, 2023. The Board of Education met in executive session earlier this evening that started at 5:30 for the purpose of particular person's employment history, as well as updated information from legal counsel. At this point in time, I would like to note that in likely of an emergency, you need to note where the exits are. Take a moment to please silence your cell phones. Smoking is not allowed on school grounds. Please join the Board of Education in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a reminder to the Board of Education as well as the cabinet, when you're speaking, please speak into the mic. So therefore, if anyone is listening at home, they can hear you clearly. At this point in time, Dr. Talbot, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, President Johnson, and good evening once again to the Board of Education, colleagues, and community. Tonight, we have a presentation that we would like to provide as we bring clarity to the fiscal update and status in our school district. As you heard from our district external auditors, it was determined that the district ended the 2022-2023 school year with a decrease in unassigned fund balance from approximately $4 million to around $686,000. So we have taken a look to see what were the major drivers that resulted in this overexpenditure, as well as some cost-saving strategies that we will consider moving forward. Tonight, you will hear from our Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance, Ms. Olivia Buatsi, as she provides an analysis of our budget and expenditures at this time. Thank you, Ms. Buatsi.
Thank you, Dr. Talbot. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, just
Yes.
keep speaking to the mic.
I will do that. As Dr. Talbot said, this presentation will be in two parts. What caused the excess expenditure over budget? In addition to that, we also want to relay some of the strategies that we have already begun to address some of those issues. And as you can see, we are going to go from the high to the low, where the over expenditure occurred from the highest level all the way down. This is just the highlight. We are not dealing with every line item in the budget. So having said that, flip to the first one. As you can see, the first area that the first major driver was the mandated public and private special education placement in the 2022-23 budget, as well as all related services. And when I talk about related services, what I'm talking about is OT, PT, speech, and parent training, all kinds of services that we provide our students. And one of the major reasons why we found ourselves in that situation was because there were a number of new students who were enrolled in our school last year. And some of those students came with their IEPs, and we are mandated by law to comply with those IEPs. And I have to say that we have been receiving a number of new students in our district with special needs, and all those are mandated by law. So if something is mandated by law, it goes above everything else. It takes priority, and we have to take care of that immediately. So special education, you can see that the net deficit, as outlined by the auditor, was about $3.6 million. More than 1/3 of that, $1.3 million, was because of special education services alone. And what have we been doing about it? We have been getting together with the special education department and talking to them, the team. We are getting together with the team to find out ways to provide that same level of services without compromising what every student's IEP calls for. And this is very important. We've got to do what is right for kids, but we have to review it on an ongoing basis so that we achieve exactly what we set out to do. The next most important cause of the deficit was employee benefit. As most of you know, after the pandemic, everywhere health insurance rates went up. We were not an exception. We budget for health insurance more than 2 years ahead of the time that we get the actual rate. So when I'm budgeting this year, I have to anticipate what the health insurance cost will be in January, the second half of the 24-25 school year, which is from January to June. And we don't get the rates, the new rate, till December of every year. So you got to estimate. You got to say, okay, I estimate that based on market condition, we are going to get 10% increase. Unfortunately, last year, the rate went up very, very high, in the double digits. So we have to make, it means that we have to pay. This is health insurance, this is contractual, we have to pay it. We also had a number of people who were paid from our grants, and the benefits were paid from the general fund. That also caused our benefit, part of the budget, to be exceeded. Enhanced security during regular school day. We overspend our security budget by about close to $500,000. And it's also because when the schools call us to provide security, when we have use of facilities, sometimes our community members use our facilities and they request for security, they request for custodial services. All those services do cost us a lot of money, and we exceeded that budget by close to $500,000. Borrowing cost. Just like everyone else, school districts also face the market conditions. When the Federal Reserve Bank raises interest rate, it does affect us. Every year we go out to borrow what is called tax anticipation notes. It is a bridge between when we get the tax revenues from the county of Nassau and the town of Babylon. This last year, what we saw was that the rate went much, much higher than we had anticipated. In addition to that, we also went for bond anticipation note. The bond anticipation note pertains to the 2016 bond. When we went for the 2016 bond, what we were doing was, we were initially doing what was called temporary financing, and we did it through what is called bond anticipation notes. When you go for a bond anticipation note, you only pay for the interest. But if you hold bond anticipation note for more than a certain period of time, they'll require that you start paying the principal. And last year, we were required to pay part of the principal because we're rolling over the temporary debt for a couple of years. So we're required to pay, and that cost us another $220,000. Occupational education. In the 22-23 budget, we anticipated about 117 students enrolling in occupational education. This is, ARCAD at BOCES, really about 139 students enrolled. So the difference is an additional cost that BOCES billed us, and that is the $268,000. Then we have substitute coverage. When people our staff are absent, we have to cover the classes. We exceeded the budget by about $252,000. Again, as I said initially, this is just the highlight of the major areas where the budget was exceeded. Infinite Campus. Last year, we switched from eSchool to Infinite Campus because eSchool was purchased by another company, and the new company could not provide us with the services that we requested for. So we had to quickly make a switch from eSchool to Infinite Campus. The switch cost us about $191,000 last year, and we had to do it because this is the student information system. Charter schools. We continue to see an increase in enrollment in charter schools. Charter schools draw upon district funds because we have to pay the charter schools currently, and then the state gives us the money back in the form of state aid. So this year, we are paying for all the students that are enrolled in charter schools, and then next year, it will be reflected in our state aid. In 21-22, we had about 35 students in charter school. That grew to about 48 last year. So the delta is what you are talking about. And then this year, again, we are seeing an increase in the enrollment of students in charter school. We are heading to about 55. So anytime that the enrollment in the schools bill us, and we have to pay them, and the state sets the rate, we don't even have control over how much we have to pay them. They tell us, this is how much you have to pay per child, and we have to write the check and send it to the charter schools. That is how charter schools are funded. Then we have game supervision. Yes, we won the championship game, but we had to provide supervision throughout those games. So all those things do cost us a lot of money. And we are talking to the department to find amicable ways of how to reduce the cost, but not reduce the effectiveness of the programs. When COVID hit us, we were all looking for nursing services. We brought in certified nurse assistants to help out because nurses were very difficult to find. Right now, we have let all of them in the 23-24 school year, we've let most of them, all of them go. So that issue has been addressed in the 23-24 school year. So what are some of the cost reduction strategies? What we've started to do immediately, starting January, is that we are going to freeze all non-essential purchases, including travel expenses, supplies, furniture and equipment, and conferences. This was an idea from Dr. Talbot, and we are also going to do an outreach to the charter school parents to see whether we can get them back to the district. I think that's also a neat idea. And we are embarking on staff reduction through attrition only. So if a position is vacated, what we are going to do is to look at it critically, review it. And if this is something that we don't need to replace, that is through attrition only, then we will not replace it. But it does not mean that every position that is vacated, we will not replace it. We will review all of them on an ongoing basis and determine whether that position has to be filled or not. So those are some of the strategies, in short, that we are trying to do as we go forward. This is evolving. We are learning it. We are going through this. It's like peeling an onion. And once we have any new information, we will share it with the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Buatsi, for the presentation on tonight. It has been very clear. It is our goal and the goal of our Board of Education to be transparent throughout this process. What we've been doing is meeting with our union presidents. We've been meeting with various collective bargaining agencies so that we can answer questions, we can provide clarity, we can ensure that there is a universal message that everyone is hearing. It is our goal to certainly be communicative throughout this process and to end this school year in good financial standing. So thank you all for listening and hearing our presentation on tonight. We will continue with our cost saving and reduction strategies. As we know factual information, you will know factual information. We need our partners. We need thought exchange. As we develop next steps, we want you to be an integral part of the process. And so far, we've received great feedback and ideas and thought exchange from many of our partners and key stakeholders within the district. And thank you for your participation and feedback. Thank you, Ms. Buatsi.
Thank you.
Does any board members have any questions? So just so the community knows that each of us as board members had the opportunity to sit down with Ms. Buatsi as well as Dr. Talbot to go over in even more detail than what you guys have received here tonight. So a lot of our questions have probably been already answered, but a couple of things that I just want to just ask questions in public, and I see that Juan also wants to ask a question as well. One thing, and let's take the special education and employee benefits. Let's just take, because they're just at the top of the list, not pulling anyone out in particular reason. When the budget was being worked on last year, there was an anticipation that the course would go up in these areas. So when we did that, we did it by a certain percentage, but let's say that it was done by a 20% increase. But instead of being a 20% increase, it ended up being more of a 40% increase or 50% increase in some of these areas. So the budget process that we did look at and we did anticipate increase in these areas, but what occurred was the increase was way farther than what is anticipated. So that's the one thing, one of the major questions that a lot of us had, like how did we exceed those areas in that way? And that was, and please, if I'm incorrect with what I'm stating, then just let me know.
And to answer your question directly, I've been doing this for some time now, and this happens to be the highest rate that I've seen in the last 20 years in terms of how health insurance increases. It was out of the box. And there's also a problem when you overestimate, then it means you are taking in too much. So it is a balancing act. And in this particular instance, the pendulum swings so much to the other side, where the health insurance companies, because of COVID and all the free stuff that we all received, they had to recoup their money. And this was a way for them to do it.
Okay, and my second question was that when we did the budget vote in May of 2023, there was Proposition 1, which was the budget, and Proposition 2, which was the for capital projects. We already had 2.5 million that was in there that we asked the community to approve the use of that 2.5 million for the middle school, for work there in the middle school, but we also added another 1.5 million to that pot. The question that I have for you is that 1.5 million that we added to utilize to do work in middle school, could that funding have gone any other direction, or do we have to put it towards capital projects?
That is a decision that the board has to make this year. Yes, at that time, that was the right thing to do during that budget process. You're talking about the $1.5 million only. Yes, that was the transfer to capital, because the year before we transferred $1.7 million to capital project. And that is what we use for the high school hallway, because we have a lot of work to do in our buildings. So it's always good to plan it out and do it incrementally. And that was what the intent. We have a lot of, even the roof in this building has to be fixed at one point. So it's always a good practice. And in fact, a couple of weeks ago, Governor Hochul came up with a new law, which requires school districts to put the health and safety of building as one of their priorities. And this is something that we have to address. We have to continue to maintain our building. And that was the reason why the $1.5 million was set aside in the budget for capital project.
And now that it's there, it cannot be moved back out.
No, once it's voter approved, it cannot be moved back.
Mr. Leon?
Thank you, President Johnson, and thank you, Ms. Bawasi, for your presentation. I don't have a question, it's more of a suggestion. And for going forward, if we know that some of these areas that you showed us tend to spike and tend to go, over the threshold of what we budget, I don't know, I'll speak for myself, but I don't know if my fellow board members would almost would appreciate a checkup either mid-year or quarterly, specifically on these areas, just to see what we budgeted, where we are now. Are we on track? Are we not on track? Do we need to readjust?
That's a good recommendation, and I take it seriously.
All right, so I leave it up to my board members if that's what they would like as well.
So Ms. Bawasi, just for clarification, this practice has not been in place already when things come in, and this is why we recognize that areas have been exceeded, because as you're doing your checks and balances, these were areas that you already started to recognize, well, wait a second, we budgeted for $1.2 million, and now it's coming up to $1.5 million. So as you were doing your checks and balances throughout the year, these are different areas that you start to recognize that you were exceeding?
Yes,
Or you
I think-
anticipated exceeding?
Yes, I think I have to draw your attention to it, because this is included in the treasurer's report that you receive, but I have to highlight it for you and bring your focus to it, because it's always given to you every month.
Thank you. Does any other board members have any other questions regarding this? Okay. At this point, thank you, Ms. Marcy. At this point in time, excuse me. At this point in time, we'll take any community input regarding board agenda items only.
Hi, Wendy Canestro. So I have just a couple of questions about the agenda, but I can't ignore what just went on here. So I would encourage all the residents to look at the last page of the audit. There was material weakness in the management and oversight of the budget, and the district's process was ineffective. They overspent, they rubber stamped. There's over 700 districts in New York State. Why aren't the rest of them in this position if they face these things? You know, the first half of insurance, what it's going to be, you have to forecast the second half. I mean, there's really not a great answer for that from you. As far as I actually found this a little comical. Outreach to charter school parents to return to the district. The district is in a financial crisis and is losing teachers, including tonight. You're not replacing teachers. You're now in attrition. Residents have begged you to curtail your spending as you rubber stamp these conferences for weeks at a time out of state. Just kept spending like drunken sailors, and here we are. To go into my questions about the agenda, a couple of things. First, I want to address the teachers. Why is the Spanish teacher coverage only until December 22nd? What's happening to those students in the rest of the second half of the year? And is this and the Spanish teacher is not being replaced because of attrition, correct?
Hold on 1 second, just pause it for a second. I just want to get to the PAR.
Sure.
And you're talking about the December 6th agenda.
Yeah, it's a Spanish
So it's
teacher.
on page 2, so Dr. Talbot. So for the, it's addressing the 6th period Spanish class for the middle school.
It looks like coverage only goes till December 22nd. Why is that? What's happening to the second half of the year?
It is anticipated that the teacher will be in the classroom after December.
The teacher's resigning. Right? The Spanish, I'm reading this correctly. The Spanish teacher's resigning. Am I reading
Yes.
it wrong? The Spanish teacher's resigning, but you're saying the same teacher is going to be in the classroom.
Not the same teacher.
You're going to have so where is the Spanish teacher coming from?
It is anticipated that the vacancy will be filled. The process has begun.
Hold on a second. You're double talking. You just said that you're cutting personnel, with attrition, and now you're saying you're replacing it. So I don't understand this. And if you could explain it.
So just for clarification, and I'll let Dr. Talbot go ahead. Go ahead, Doctor. You can take it. Go ahead.
I can clarify.
Thank you.
So attrition is not applicable to all staff, as Ms. Buatsi explained during her presentation. That particular position will be replaced. Processes have already begun to
Okay.
do so. And that's why those teachers are only approved to do that coverage until that time. If there is a need to continue, they will be brought back to continue their services.
Okay, what about the social studies teacher? I see there's coverage until June. Are you replacing the social studies teacher?
The social studies teacher at the high school is in process as well. That instructional position will be replaced.
Okay, the business teacher's resigning. I don't see any coverages for those classes. What's happening to the students in those classes?
Business is an elective on a semester basis. And so that elective will not be offered after the retirement of that teacher.
So students already have their schedules. How is that gonna
Students
be?
will have the opportunity to select other courses that will be offered in place of that.
Okay. So when you talk about personnel cuts with attrition, what does that apply to? You're saying certain positions. What positions apply to that and what don't? Just the elective classes?
No, not just the elective classes, and I cannot answer that blanketly and accurately. I will answer that on a case by case basis.
Okay. All right. With the social studies teacher, okay, wait, let me go back to this. Okay. There's 0.2 coverage costs. I want to know how much the 0.2 coverages are costing the district for the seasoned teachers. The audit actually calls out this budget process as one of the drivers for the overspending. So how much is that costing the teachers? Do they have other coverages besides this coverage, this one class? Because they're supposed to have 5 classes to cover. And I'm told that some teachers are doing 6, 7, 8 classes. So how effective can teachers be if they must do additional preps when they're only supposed to be teaching 5 classes? And is that practice contributing to the bad climate pressures and pressure teachers are feeling? And now we're going to be, with this audit process and trying to make up money, it seems as if you're going to be overburdening teachers and also eventually overburdening the taxpayer. So I just want to know that. How much is the 0.2 costing? Because these are seasoned teachers, you know, with that percentage of their salary.
So that's a figure that we'd have to get back to you on. I don't have that figure available for you at this time.
Can you let me know that?
Sure.
And then I'm just going to ask this because we were just going back and forth. I just want to ask about the district clerk. What's the hire date for that?
So I will address that in just a few minutes. when we get to
Okay,
that item.
well, then let me just ask my questions and then you could
So
address it.
actually, your time is
I know,
up.
but she was answering
But-
during my time.
Mr. Code, excuse me, stop the clock every time that there was a back and forth, because I was watching him stop in the clock.
You won't let me ask these quick questions?
Just one more quick question, that's it.
Okay,
and
this
that's
is
it.
my questions for the district clerk. When is the last day for the consultant? These mandatory NISBA training for district clerk, and the lawyers guide them. So that there shouldn't be two people in that position. And the district certainly can't afford to keep a consultant while they have a district clerk. And that the people need to learn to do their jobs and use their resources. There's also a BOCES listserv for clerks to ask the questions to. So that's my district clerk questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the agenda items? Seeing none, I'm gonna move forward. We're gonna go over to the review of the December 13th agenda. So if everyone can pull out the December 13th agenda, please. All right, so for December 13th meeting, there will be presentations that will occur next week at the meeting. One will be presentation from the chorus and to celebrate the holiday season, as well as presentations regarding curriculum. Let's go down to agenda items 2A 1 through 3. Does any board members have any questions regarding agenda items 2A 1 through 3? Review the minutes. And looking at the minutes, one of the things that I did ask Mr. Code to do was to pull out a separate audit committee meeting minutes, so therefore it's clearly reflective in our documents that we did have an audit committee meeting. Any other questions regarding agenda items 2A 1 through 3? Seeing none, can you go to your PAR for December the 13th? Any questions regarding the PAR for the 13th? So one question that I do have, Dr. Talbot, there's a TBD on page number 1 for certified instructional appointments. Will it be anticipated that we would possibly have a name for next week's meeting, as well as for under B on page 1, there's another TBD, as well as page 2.
Yes, those appointments are in progress as we speak.
So the Board of Education should receive some information about the individuals for those positions by Friday of this week.
Yes.
So please make sure that everyone checks their transmittals for the updated information for those particular areas. Any other questions regarding the personnel action report for December 13th? Seeing none, the treasurer's report, any questions regarding the treasurer's report for December the 13th? Seeing none for agenda item 3E, 1 through 8. Any questions regarding these agenda items? Just for one question I have, Dr. Talbot, in regards to 3E1 and 3E5. It says the contract years 22-23 for each of those. Why is it 22-23 and not 23-24?
Those are special education contracts. And oftentimes those districts will get students from Amityville School District late in the year, and they will hold their billing until the next cycle to present their contracts. Is there any additional information, Dr. Lang, that you would like to add to that?
I'm sorry, except to say that traditionally, they're very slow in billing the other districts.
Say that one more time.
I'm sorry. Traditionally, their districts are slow in billing the other district, the home district of the student.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the December 13th agenda, 3F1 through 3? Right, seeing none, I'm gonna go back to the December 6th agenda. So please go back to December 6th agenda. All right, 3B1. I'm sorry. Can I have a motion for agenda item 2C2, please?
So moved.
Dave Heller is first.
Second.
Carol Seehoff is second. Any discussion on this item? So the candidate that we selected, her name is Melissa Dernan. She's an individual that unfortunately she could not be here tonight because she actually is over in her current school district. She has about 2 months of experience as a district clerk, but she has a wealth of experience in other areas. The process was a good process. We got a number of applicants that applied. We interviewed roughly about 6 candidates that we interviewed for the position of the district clerk. Right. So I will say for the resolution, so everyone hears the resolution for this particular position. Right. Be resolved, the Board of Education appoints Melissa A. Dernan as the district clerk at an annual salary of $65,000 with prorated benefits as outlined in the 23-24 terms of conditions, employment agreement between the Board of Education and the district clerk, and authorizes the president of the Board of Education to execute said agreement with Melissa A. Dernan on behalf of the Board of Education. Melissa is anticipated to start after the first year. I believe it's January the 2nd that she's anticipated to start here in our district as the district clerk. Also, at that point in time, our current Mr. Code is as a consultant. He's not here on a full-time basis whatsoever. He's here on very limited hours, and he has assisted us in the role of the district clerk. With the appointment of the new district clerk, Mr. Code will be available if needed, if his contract is approved, because we have to go back to see, we're going to approve it to extend it to the end of January. So once again, if we decide that we do need him to assist Melissa Dernan in the process, then the Board of Education will make that decision and extend the contract to the end of January. If that does occur, there'll be limited time that he would serve as a consultant to Melissa A. Dernan. So at this point in time, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3B1, please?
So moved. Second.
That's Jeanette Santos is first. Leslie Kretz is second. Any questions regarding the PAR for December the 6th? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion to table agenda item 3B2, please?
So moved.
Carol Seoff is first. Jeanette Santos is second. There's more information that's going to be required, and that's why this item is being tabled. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Can I do agenda items 3C1 and 2 all together? Can I have a motion for agenda item 3C1 and 2?
Second.
Dave Hella is first and Leslie Kretz is second. Any questions, any comments regarding these two agenda items?
Would that be?
Just, can you just speak into the mic, Ms. Santos? Move closer,
Would that be?
a little closer. Yeah, a little bit closer.
Okay. Would that be agenda item 2, A and B?
Yes, it's all included. Mhm.
That's it.
Any other questions regarding these items?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion for agenda item 3E1 through 3, please?
So moved.
Carol Seehoff is first.
Second.
Leslie Kretz is second. Any questions regarding these agenda items? So Dr. Talbot, just for, please clarify for 1 and 2, the same thing applies for 1 and 2 for the 22-23 school year as the previous agenda? Or no? Can you just, so why is it 22-23?
Yes, that is our flow-through funding with our IDEA grants with SEDCAR, and those are often billed the following year.
Any other questions or comments regarding this agenda items? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion for agenda items 3F1 through 3, please?
So moved.
Jeanette Santos is first.
Second.
Leslie Kretz is second. Any questions regarding these agenda items? All right, so any questions regarding this agenda item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 6-0. In regards to legal, we got advice from counsel in executive session. Dr. Talbot?
There's no full superintendent's report tonight. We just want to reiterate our commitment to ensuring that the school district's financial health and growth will be communicated with our school community throughout the process, and that we look forward to sustaining a sustainable financial close of the 23-24 school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Talbot. At this point in time, we will take community input regarding non-agenda items at this point in time. And please, as a reminder, just give your name and address to Mr. Code. You do not have to speak it into the mic. And just as always, I will ask my board of education and my cabinet to be respectful to the individuals that are at the mic, as the same thing as individual as the mics, to be respectful to the board of education. Thank you. Go ahead.
So it just happened right in front of us. You're in a financial crisis, you overspent, you blew through $3.6 million. There's no need to have a consultant when you have a district clerk. There's training, the lawyers guide them, and not one trustee spoke up to say that is a waste of money. However minimal you think it is, nobody, just happened in front of us. Okay, as far as the charter schools, it's an indictment of the state of this district with the low, that they're not proficient, at least 3/4 of grades 3 through 8, that parents find that charter school, there's a better chance of educating their kids properly than here. The district does budget for every single student. The money follows the student to the charter schools. They pay for that. As far as the audit committee is subject to open meetings law. The audit committee does have to meet and have a corrective action plan to the management letter. It has to be noticed. It has to be done in public. I'd like to know when that's going to happen, since I think it's due to the state January 15th. When will the audit committee be meeting? I'd like to know that information. And as far as the student management system, that was one of the drivers for this audit and the overspending. While you stated that the implementation was about $200,000, I have two questions. How much was the actual student management system? I remember, I thought Dr. Fail said it was in excess of $500,000, if I'm not mistaken. And was it budgeted for at the time of implementation? A couple of other things. I sent the Board of Education an email on November 9th, and you quote policies all the time, yet I sent an email to all of you. Not one of you responded, even though there's a policy 1400 that you're supposed to. At the end of the last meeting, you stated the policy committee was not subject to the open meetings law because it was advisory in nature, and that's the half truth. The other half of the truth is that the committee consists of majority of trustees on that committee, which are 3 trustees, the super, assistant super. It is subject to open meetings law, but yeah, neglected to tell people that part. I asked at the last meeting why there was a double budget transfer. The board president, the superintendent, and the assistant business, the super who authorized it, nobody could explain why there was a double budget transfer. And you all approved that. You approved something you didn't even understand. So you rubber stamp and that's it. So it's problematic, and that's why we are. And then the auditor gave his report, and 5 minutes later, you approved something you didn't understand. So I can't think of a worse time to be in the middle of teacher negotiations. You have no money to give a fair cost of living wage. You have teachers leaving, as is evident tonight. You have more resignations tonight. They're going to keep leaving. You say you're for students, but if you screw the teachers, you screw the students. So you can't really, you could talk a good game, but the proof is in the pudding here. And, you may say it's harsh what I'm saying, but really it's the truth.
Thank you. Any other community inputs regarding non-agenda items?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Danelle Corona, 32 Mill Place. Happy holidays to all of you. Just a quick question in reference to the incident that took place at the high school, and I am very grateful that everyone got out safely, both the students and the staff. It was reported to the community that the building needed some type of restoration in order to be safe for everyone to return. What was the cost of that restoration? And was it covered under insurance?
Dr. Talbot?
Good evening.
Good evening.
You're referencing the incident at the high school?
Correct, yes.
Right. So there had to be restoration of the bathroom area,
Okay.
and the cost for that, maybe Ms. Buatsi may have a range for you, or that's information we can provide for you.
And will it be covered under insurance? The other question.
Yes,
other hand.
we
Ms.
are
Buatsi,
working,
just bring the mic
Yes.
way closer. Thank
we're
you.
working with the insurance company. They are supposed to give us the cost estimates, and we'll provide it to you.
So it is covered under insurance?
Ah.
You're working on that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank
I
you so
want to be
much.
Very sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other community input regarding non-agenda items?
Just 2 things. It's anticipated that the health insurance for retirees are going up 25%, and for staff, it's going up 10%. That's actually what unassigned fund balance is for emergencies. Being that you depleted yours, I'd like to know the district's plan of how you're going to handle that one. And I'd also like to know about the board vacancy. The board has to fill that position within 90 days. And we haven't heard anything. Nothing's been published on the website, and the board is obligated to have that discussion in public. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding non-agenda items? All right, so just to, if there's no other questions regarding non-agenda items, there were some questions that came out or comments that came out in regarding a couple of things. One is with the district clerk. Once again, we have hired a new district clerk. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, the Board of Education will make that decision as to whether or not we will extend the contract of Mr. Code as a consultant. And if the Board of Education makes a decision to extend the contract as a consultant, then the hours of Mr. Code will be watched very closely. Yes, we all are very much aware of the services that can be provided to a district clerk. They can reach out to other district clerks here on Long Island. They can communicate with their legal, with our legal team as well. And the district clerk can also go to additional training as needed. So once again, the Board of Education will make that decision as to whether or not we will extend the contract. And if we do extend the contract, whether or not his services would be utilized. In regards to the audit committee, the Board of Education is allowed to meet in executive session under certain circumstances, which we did to get the report from Alan Yu, and we got that particular report. any adjustments, any revisions that we need to provide to the community that will occur. There was a question in regards to how much the student management system was and was it budgeted for? And we have that question and we'll get a response for that. In regards to the policy committee, I will make it clear, when we meet as a policy committee, when we talk about having a quorum for the policy committee, it would mean that we would have to have 4 board members there for the policy committee. We do not have 4 board members at the policy committee. We only have 3 board members. It is not required to be an open meeting. It's not required to be posted. People can post it. Some districts do post the meeting and some people do come to the meetings. So once again, we do not have a quorum when we have the policy committee meetings. We've never had a quorum. So in regards to the other question, in regards to anticipated increase in costs, we have the question and Dr. Talbot has a question. In regards to the district clerk, at this point in time, once again, we have not met as a board since our last meeting to discuss the district clerk. What's going to happen with the vacancy? With the vacant seat for the district, I'm sorry, the board trustee. Sorry. In regards to the vacant seat of a board trustee, there's a couple things that can happen. The Board of Education can make a decision to leave that seat vacant, right? Or the Board of Education can make a decision to fill that seat. When we've made a decision to fill the seat in previous times, what we did, we posted information in our different sources. We asked for individuals to submit to us their letter of interest to serve on the Board of Education. The Board of Education interviewed the individuals and made a decision who they were going to select to fill that seat. Dr. Fulton, who had to resign due to health reasons, his seat is not up into 2025. If the Board of Education decides to fill that vacant seat, then the process would be to post it, interview, and then fill the seat. If that did occur, that would not occur probably until about January, because if we decided tonight we're going to do that hypothetically, we put out the posting, then it probably wouldn't be until January that we would get the information back from individuals who have an interest. And then from that point, we would interview them. So maybe be closer to possibly the end of January, early February before someone joined the board. Keep in mind that if, let's say hypothetically, the person, we went that direction as a board, and the person we selected started on February 1st. That individual will only be in the seat from February 1st into the election. They have to run for the seat, right? If they run for the seat and they win, then they stay in that seat for 1 more year, because that's when Dr. Fulton's term would be up, and they have to run again if they want to run again. So that would be one direction that the Board of Education could go, or once again, we could leave the seat vacant. So I say to my fellow board members, what is your feelings on filling this vacant seat?
Last time we did the interviews and it worked very, very well. So I would go with that. Excuse me. That was what I would do.
The board could function.
Just kind of speak a little bit closer to the mic.
The
Thank you.
board could function properly and efficiently with 6 members. By the time we took on a new member of the board, which could be sometime in February, by the time they break into what's really going on and how to conduct themselves at meetings and how much research work is involved, they then would have to run again at the beginning of May for that job, and they could possibly lose that election. So it would be someone that may only be with us for 4 or 5 months. So I don't know if it's necessary to fill the position right now.
But I think that that's a choice the community member would have to make, to give them a choice.
Right now.
So that's.
Well, basically, I'm saying I think we could live with 6 people.
Mhm.
Councilman.
Ms. Santos?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Heller. The last time that we had it, that we needed to hire someone to have somebody join us, where we went out and we interviewed people, and Dave Heller was one of them, the ones that we chose. It was a great choice, but I think that right now at this time, it's not really enough time for us to start interviewing and people to apply. I think that I agree with the fact that we can work with 6 members until May 21st, which is election day.
I'll wait until the end.
Well, I was just to clarify it. Okay, so I took over in August. I was actually appointed in August to fill a term by a board member who left. So I mean, I had almost an entire year. And then I did have to run for a 1-year term to finish that board member's actual term. So, yeah, it was, and then ran again for a 3-year term. So just so to whoever takes this position, they have to realize there's a lot more involved in it than they think.
Ms. Seoff?
Yes, I just want to preface what I'm going to say, the importance of getting up to the mic and spreading misinformation. We just had a community member get up and said that the board has to replace trustee within 90 days. Obviously, excuse me. So Mr. Heller, I agree with you. I think that we can work very well with 6 members until the election. We have to take into consideration that if we brought someone aboard, there is a tremendous amount of training required from New York State Board Association. That person would have to run in May, possibly lose. So I think that we should function as 6 until the election.
Mr. Leon?
Thank you, President Johnson. Well, I think we all know that being a board member is a thankless job. I don't get to claim this on my tax returns in the least. But you know what? Whenever someone steps up from the community and has the will and wants to serve in this capacity, I think it's always a good thing. I do agree with my fellow board members that we do have a lot on our plate right now, and to put out a posting and to schedule time to interview multiple interested parties, and then have them start in mid-February, only to pick up a petition in April to run in May. That's a lot of work for someone that may not be here, that may lose an election. Like my colleague said, I think we function very good as a 6 board member. If this was a board that was coming up with a lot of split votes, 3-3, I would say maybe. But perhaps it's best just to wait till the election, and there will be 3 seats open. So that's how I feel.
So my opinion, either way, there'll be 3 seats that'll be open. Because of the fact that, once again, if we were to fill the seat, the person would have to run for that particular seat, or if not, then someone else would run for that seat. Me personally, I do agree with Ms. Kretz. I do feel as if that it would allow an opportunity for someone from the community to start the process a little bit earlier on being part of a board of education. It then allows that individual to make that decision as to whether or not they would like to run again in May. So petitions get picked up roughly the end of March, early April. They can make the decision if they want to run or not run. The time that it would take to orientate that person, and if they were to run again, and if they won the election again, that person actually would be a little bit ahead of the curve. That would also be beneficial to us as the Board of Education as we move forward. I do understand the concerns of the time constraints. We do have a lot of stuff that's going on, but for them to come in now would actually probably be a good time for them to come in now to hear the process of everything, hear the budget process, and once again, be ahead just a little bit. If we made a decision to do it, we could post by the end of next week. We could put a deadline by the beginning of January, and then do interviews, and someone could be in place by the end of January. So that's just my feeling right now. I think it's 4-2, so it is I think a moot point, but I just would like the board just to consider this, and if we want to put it back to discussion next week, we can do that. So at this point in time, the seat will not be filled unless there's a decision by the Board of Education to do something different. So at this point in time, it is now 8:30. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:30?
So moved.
Carol
Second.
Seehoff is first and Leslie Kretz is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 6-0. Thank you for coming out.